Hey guys, it's a beautiful day in Port Coquitlam, Canada. We're looking at a brand new bike here from OHM. This is the Quest 2 Sport, and we've got the founder here. This is Michael DeVisser. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm really happy to be here with you, and I appreciate that you brought the original Quest back there. I think we reviewed this a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, it was over a couple of years ago.
It's awesome. It's really neat to see the refinement that's happening. New motor. This is the EP8 from Shimano, so much higher torque, higher capacity battery pack. I want to point out that they do have an OHM Quest 2 and they have an OHM Quest 2 Pro, so this is kind of like right in the middle. As far as the Pro, you'd get the electronic shifting.
Exactly. It also integrates with the display, so you can actually see what gear you're in on the display.
That's awesome. And I think that one has like the Bluetooth app and some other features. I wanted to point out and kind of call out this bike rack here, Michael. I've looked at this in the past. It sounds like you sell these. This is the Thule, is it the EasyFold?
Yep, it's called the EasyFold XT2, and it's definitely our favorite rack. You can mount two bikes on it. It can be a regular bike or even a low step bike.
Yeah, you got this like arm thing. We were putting them on earlier and I was like, wow, that's great. Because these have the batteries on them right now. All of that is supported by this rack, and it's got some like reflectors on the back. So I just thought that was fun. So we got the bikes unloaded, and I just want to talk about this thing for a minute. As I mentioned, 3 frame sizes. It only comes in this anthracite black, which actually looks really nice. It's kind of a satin with these understated logos. You know, OHM is this like small batch, almost like a craft brewery type of company, really high quality products. You do pay a little bit more. This is roughly $5,200 US, but as I go through some of the components and stuff, I think you'll understand why. So starting off with these Schwalbe Supermoto tires, this is the new generation, extra thick puncture protection. You can just see the rubber here. These are like moto-inspired. They're higher volume, so they're going to give you some stability, some float. You can even go off-road a little bit with these things. 27.5 by 2.4, so that 2.4 is a little bit wider. And then of course the reflective sidewall stripe. I love that, in addition to some of these little highlights here, because it is a black frame. And I left the lights on purposely. You can see these things. I love where they've put that headlight. It's mounted to the stem, to the base of the stem. So if you want to put a phone up here or other accessories or something, it's not going to collide with this. This thing is aimable. It's got like a strong housing. It doesn't feel cheap, and it's 210 lumens. It's very bright from Lezine, and it's wired into the bike. And so it means it's running off of that high capacity battery. And then back here, we've got another Lezine rear light with 2 LEDs and Alex rims as usual with those reinforcement eyelets, these nice black spokes, black hub. Everything here has these internal sealed bearings. So whether it's the hubs or the headset, that's tapered, by the way. Down here to the bottom bracket, that's Holotech 2, Shimano, lightweight, stiff. And then the boost that I was talking about, if you haven't heard that before, it just means that this is a wider hub, which gives you a sturdier spoke bracing angle. Okay, so coming back to the color, I like that they tied that into the suspension fork. And this is a nice fork. RST here, air fork, 120 millimeters of travel versus 100 on some of the other models, 70 millimeters on these custom aluminum alloy tubular fenders. And it's acting as like a sort of a support arm for that rear rack, which also connects down here at the dropouts. Now this is 142 millimeter hub spacing, so not quite boost, but still wider than average. 135 is average. And if you look at how this rack is connected, that's designed to give you increased torsional strength. And what did you say the increase was? Like how many?
It's 20%.
20% increase.
Increase on lateral stability. So if you load that rack up, when you're riding, you won't have as much reverberation through the frame, so that it keeps the bike feeling sturdy while you're riding.
You don't get as much frame flex, and
exactly.
That's really awesome to see. And this thing, it is RackTime compatible. There are a bunch of accessories, but before we get to that, max load 25 kilograms, that's roughly 55 pounds. So to me, this is very elegant, it's very functional, and it's just integrated so beautifully. And these fenders, they're not going to rattle, they're going to protect you with the wider tires. So from a safety and utility standpoint, I feel like they've done a lot right here, including the pedals. Before we get to the accessories, I love these Welgos. They're really wide, a little bit longer, and they've got those pins, so you're really going to have good traction. And I should call out the crank arms here. These things are going to be 170 to 175 depending on the frame size, and the handlebar, same kind of thing. So this bike, it's not just that the frame is bigger, a lot of those extra support pieces are also sort of size matched. So we move the bike over and look at all those accessories. The RackTime ecosystem is one of the best. I mean, these things are awesome, and you sell all of these.
Yeah, exactly.
So the coolest one, I thought, you know, you kind of arrived and this thing fit. It's sort of an aerodynamic basket. Can you?
Yeah, so all the attachments have the snap-it system, so it quick connects onto the carrier. So just click it in, and then you can remove it just by pushing back.
Wow.
You can also get a locking mechanism if you want to lock the basket onto the bike. This one's great. It can fit a full-size grocery bag in here. I like this one. It's got a little bit higher walls.
Yeah.
So if you fit a bag of groceries, then it's not going to fall out.
And it's still not as wide as the handlebars, so in terms of like navigating. And then we're getting into like the cloth traditional types of bags. This one's fairly large.
Yeah, this one's called the Talus class. So it can clip on. It's a trunk bag, but it also has built-in panniers.
Yes, I was wondering. That's great. So I kind of saved this one for last because I think it's super cool.
This is definitely one of my favorites. So clicks onto the bike. It's fully waterproof and can also be locked at the back.
Look at that. And nice big reflector. Oh boy, oh boy.
Can hold your helmet and other things, and totally conceals it.
Dude, okay, I want to step back and get a look at this thing. Like that is so cool. It really fits with the bike. And I should point out, you guys, coming back to just like the specs on the bike, 30.9 millimeters on the seat post. It does not come with a suspension post, but apparently these are pretty popular. This one's from Kinekt, and it's adjustable. So as far as like how cushiony you want it and maybe your body weight and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and Michael, so we were making a friend here. This is Jack. He's just riding his bike by, asking about the review.
That's right.
It's nice to meet a friend locally, but these guys have been around since like 2005. I mean, it's pretty amazing, and they're based in North Vancouver. Little, you know, fairly premium if you look at the build. But I gotta say, I love what you've done here. I noticed you got the mirrors, you got the display and the racks and everything. How long have you had this thing, Jack?
Since November.
Oh man, you getting some good use of it?
Yeah, well, since November, I've put on over 800K.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I noticed, I hope some of those weren't...
Yeah, they were. Unfortunately.
You look like you're in good shape here, and I like your little... you got the bag with the bottle holster in the back. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, it's gotta have something to pack your stuff around.
Absolutely.
And I live in a condo now, so the bag's good for carrying the battery back upstairs. You know.
What an adventure, man. I thank you for saying hi and sharing, going on camera.
Well, I enjoy your videos, and I think you do a wonderful job. And yeah, these are really nice looking bikes. I will be upgrading to a more expensive one, and I think I want to get mid-drive next time too.
The mid-drives are pretty nice, very efficient. This thing, he was saying in kilometers, what was it, like 30 to 200?
65
to
200 kilometers.
To 200 kilometers.
Right,
And in miles, I think that's 40 to like 125.
Yeah.
So for the American friends, they sell these in the United States and Canada. And check this out. I know you'll like this. 2 bottle cage bosses here. That's one of the things I appreciate from Ohm. And just to reiterate, he's got the bag with like the little holster back here, because you got to have fluids when you're out and about.
Yeah, I just finished a beer.
That's
non-alcoholic.
Awesome. That's awesome. We won't tell anyone, you know.
Okay. Have a good day, guys.
You too, Jack.
Okay, very nice meeting you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for saying hi. So there are a few other things to call out before we get into the electronics and stuff. I love the locking Ergon grips. I mean, it's a little thing, and you could add these to any bike, but it's just nice that they come with it. They look great, they aren't gonna twist, and these are another one of the parts that are sized differently depending on the frame size. You'll notice that the geometry on this, we got 4 10mm spacer, 1 5, and it's a pretty short stem. So this is a little more upright, even like a little bit of a low rise on the handlebar, and you can rotate that forward or back to change your reach. It's just, again, for me as like a bike person, I like seeing that optionality. If we come down here and look at the drivetrain, 42 tooth chainring with narrow wide teeth. Okay, so that means it's really gonna lock onto this KMC chain. It's not gonna bounce off, and we even have a thick aluminum alloy bash guard on the outside. So that's gonna kind of protect the motor and the chainring itself if you go over some obstacles, maybe you're on that adventure we talked about, and the chain's just not gonna bounce off nearly as easily, if at all. We do have that clear sticker slap guard protecting the beautiful paint job. And then we have a 10-speed drivetrain back here, 11 to 36 teeth. Lots of options, so you're gonna have a bunch of different cadence speeds, which pairs really nicely with a mid-drive motor, because you have to pedal to get this thing going, and that's part of what gives you such great range. Shimano Deore, this is like a 4-level, 4 steps up in the Shimano group set with this locking clutch, okay? So you can kind of put it in the off position or the on position, and it's an on right now, which means it's not gonna bounce as much. It's a little bit tighter, and that's great for if you're going faster or if you go off-road a little bit. This is, I'd consider it, it's kind of like a hybrid bicycle. You know, it's really set up for the city, and you can see that with the tread, it's a little bit slick, but there's no reason you couldn't take this off-road on like a gravel path, single track even, a little bit of obstacles. And I just feel like the whole thing it's sort of tough. It's set up right, and I love the trigger shifters that they did here. So we have the 2-way, so you can use your thumb or your pointer finger to go to a higher gear, and then you can use your thumb and shift multiple, I think 3 steps, and you can drop the gears and get back up into like a low starting gear. So everything here is done really nicely. I should have mentioned earlier, this is a 15mm thru-axle up front with like a 6mm hex bolt, and in the rear we actually have quick release, and this is a 12mm thru-axle. So they're both stiffer, they're sturdier. This is, again, kind of an off-road inspired thing, and OHM is here near Vancouver, and you know, we got the mountains and stuff in North Vancouver, so that's what I'm coming back with. It's kind of city setup, but really lots of capability here, and it's tough. The ESGE Pletcher kickstand, it stows nicely. You're not going to get in the way if you're pedaling. It's not going to hit your heel or something like that. And it didn't bounce a whole lot either. And of course, you need good brakes when you have a heavier bike and you're going off-road especially. So we got the 2-finger Shimano levers, and they're hydraulic, of course, which means they're both going to actuate really easily. You're not going to have to really exert yourself, and you can adjust those levers, bring them in a little bit for that smaller frame size or the larger frame size. 180mm rotors front and rear with quad piston calipers, so you're getting a greater braking surface, and it's just going to distribute that a little bit better. Also with the 180mm rotor, you just have more surface area, so it's going to cool a little bit faster. Maybe the last thing to point out is the saddle is also Ergon, kind of matches the grips, but it's OHM branded, so they've done a lot of custom stuff here. Let's get into the battery. These are the keys. They're ABUS and Paro, so they're not the plus code where you can kind of key them alike to other folding locks and stuff, but this is still one of the higher quality locks. And before we get over there, look at the power button. It's way up high. I love that. And if we come to the other side here, we've got the locking cylinder. It's up high too. So many times you have to bend way down and mess with stuff. There's a little bit of that going on because we do have the charge port, and it is directly in the path of the crank arm. So when the bike is plugged in, just be careful, because it's one of those drive systems that it doesn't cycle the chain backwards, and there's not a ton of friction. So if you bump that, you just wouldn't want to shear off the plug. Michael, will you help take it from here and unlock and remove this? So this cover is nice because it's not like color matched or anything. I think it's the same cover they use on many of their bikes, and so it's a little bit easier to replace. It's got this nice rubber seal. And go ahead and take it off there, Michael. Kind of.
Sure. Just push the button in the middle and slide the latch down.
Yep.
And then the cover can be taken off.
Okay. And you can see the shield here. I like that it's got this grid, and it's just a little bit tougher than some of the others that I've seen. But keep in mind, since this doesn't lock to the frame, this could be kind of taken. I don't think it's very likely, but I want to be fair. This is something I call out on other bikes. So Michael is unlocking the battery. There we go. Comes right out the kit. Can I grab this?
Yeah.
This thing is 7.3 pounds, and I love that it has a little handle at the end so you won't drop it. It's got a little charge level indicator built into the bottom. The stats on this battery, 36.3 volts, 17.5 amp hours for 635.2 watt hours. That's quite good. And their charger, I want to compliment you on that. Where did we, oh yeah, I was like, where did we put this thing? We stowed it in the little pannier bag here. This is so cool. Can I trade you?
Sure.
Great, so this thing weighs like 2.2 pounds. It's a little bit bulkier, but you're really getting some bang for your buck. This thing is rated at 42 volts, 5.6 amps. Most chargers, they're like 2 amps. Some of the better ones are like 4. So for this one to be 5.7, you're gonna fill that battery faster, 4 hours or something like that. And I should mention, you wanna keep the battery in a cool, dry location. Extreme heat is hard on them, and extreme cold is gonna kind of cut your range maybe in half. So I'm keeping this bike probably in like a nice environment considering how fancy it is. And then I'd probably plug, I'm not sure I would take the battery out every time, but if you're someone who has to park at the office and lock your bike up downstairs, it's nice that you can take the battery off and bring it up and charge it. One complaint or one trade-off I have though is there's a little dongle adapter that you need in order to charge, because that interface is much different than this little circular plug. So this is what it looks like on the bike. You don't need the dongle if you're charging on the bike, but you know, it's just something it's easy to forget. It's easier to lose. Just gonna stow this again. These bags, it's a local company called Two Wheel Gear that Ohm sells. I just think the design is really cool. Kind of zips up like this, like a regular backpack, highly rain resistant. And there's this spring-loaded thing at the top. It just comes off like that. Look at this. Little shout out for these guys. And it's so nice that their racks are using, I think it's 10mm tubing, fairly standard gauge, and so it's compatible with a wide range of accessories. You want to pop that thing back on, Michael? Oh, and I love this. You can actually take the key out of the bike and you can just like click the battery right in. You don't need, like so many batteries these days, like the Bosch Power Tube, it's like I have to have the key in it when I'm putting it back on, and it's just a lot going on. So I'm a big fan of that, Michael. Maybe you can pop the shield back on too. Keeps everything dry and protected. Is your electronic stuff rated at like IP something? Is it IP rated?
Yeah, the batteries are rated at IP67.
Oh, wow.
As well as the motor.
That's higher than average. I've heard a lot of IP65 kind of stuff. So 67. Does that mean it can like take a spray and kind of stuff?
It can take a spray, but not submersion.
Now that looks like a powerful boat going by, and maybe it's a perfect time to talk about just the powertrain on this thing. So the battery is driving the Shimano EP8, and this thing is surprisingly compact. It's lightweight, 5.7 pounds. It's really a phenomenal motor when you look at how much power it produces. So in the rear here, we're measuring wheel speed, and you'll notice that there isn't a spoke magnet. I think that's integrated into like the hub. This is like, there, you can see it right there. There's a little magnet, so it's a lot less likely to get bumped out of position if you do go off-road or if you're transporting the bike. That's fancy. That's a nice upgrade. And right here we're measuring pedal cadence and pedal torque, so it's taking these three signals to give you a really dynamic, intuitive feel. And now you're getting up to 85 Newton meters of torque with this thing. So this is like really a mountain e-bike rated motor, 250 to 500 watts, 85 Newton meters. That's fantastic. That's like the Bosch Performance Line CX, or you know, the Broza S-Mag. I mean, that's like that super high end in terms of torque, but just the size and the weight on this thing, and the noise. This is a quieter motor, so I'm a fan of what Shimano is doing here. If you look at the last generation, again, this is just a Quest. It's not the Quest 2. We had the E7000. This was rated at 60 Newton meters of torque. So there's a pretty significant difference. This was 250 to 440. So it's a big step up, and that helps to offset some of the increased weight that we were talking about. So let's turn this thing on. Just reach right over here to this silver button. I'm thankful again that it's so high up, because we don't have a power button on this new display. It's very simple, but it gives me pretty much everything I need. Worth noting, it does not have Bluetooth app compatibility. So the eTube app and some of the other stuff, you're not going to be able to do that. Once it's powered on, this 1.5" grayscale backlit LCD gives you battery charge level. So there's 5 dots. Each dot is 20% step. And it kind of mixed on that, because when you get down to 1 dot, how do you know if you're like 0 or 20%? Well, you use range. And so I'm going to show you that next. We got the up and down, and then this circle button. And right now it's on odometer, but if I press it one more time, we get to range. You can see right here, it's small, but that's the top bullet. Now when I change assist levels, it's going to tell me, okay, with a full battery, we estimate that you can get roughly 200 kilometers. That's awesome. And we take it up to the middle level. Okay, 100 kilometers, and then the highest level of assist, 67 kilometers. So there's significant range difference based on the level of assist. And back to this like hypothetical, if you only had 1 battery bar left and you were concerned, you could just take it down to the lower levels of assist and kind of limp your way home. And I just think that's kind of neat. You're not just left guessing. Now, if we press the circle button one more time, it shows distance, and this is easy to reset. If you hold it for a second, you see it flashing, and then press it one more time, it would reset it. So range, distance, odometer, and I love that the light button is fairly reachable as well. So we press that, and that's gonna turn on those really nice integrated lights. Getting ready to take this thing out, and I'm noticing that they did the black anodized stanchions again. It just looks really nice, and it protects that lightweight aluminum upper, and we've got compression adjust and rebound adjust down there. So with an air fork, you're saving weight, and there's a lot more you can do. You can even change the air pressure on this thing. I usually start from the highest level of assist just so you can get a sense for what the motor could sound like. Pretty responsive. And of course, with the wider 2.4-inch tires, it coasts nicely, not getting any speed wobble or anything. I just go across these pavers. Yeah, brakes are working great. I think the tire pressure rating is like 30 to 55, so there's a wide enough spread that if you're a lighter rider like myself, you get some comfort and some vibration dampening just from the tires. And in this case, with the suspension seat post, I'm living it up. It feels really good. One of the other things I've read about the EP8 and some of the higher spec motors from Shimano is that they offer a higher pedal cadence support. So I'm going to shift down to lower gear and spin, and we might get a different noise profile, and I'm going to see if it can keep up. Seems like it's doing pretty well. You want to trade up? So I'm about to hop on the original Quest here. And this one had supernova lights. So we got 3 LEDs in the rear and then a slightly different headlight. They're rated similarly at that roughly 200 lumens. I'm gonna stow the kickstand, and one thing I've noticed is getting on and off the bike, especially with the basket, if you swing your leg over, you can hit your shin or your knee. So I love that your frames have this like lower top tube. You can just kind of tip it,
it's a
stand over.
top tube, and designed to have a little bit lower standover.
A little approachable. I do have the standover height and all the other specs back at the website too. So Michael's gonna hop on, and we're just gonna take a little ride through the foresty road here. Really quiet. And that suspension fork is doing a great job. Seat post. Are your lights on? Yeah. I really appreciate that they've got the 2 LEDs in the rear. It makes a noticeable difference. And I'm sure if it was wet out with the wider fenders, even the front fender going a little bit lower, giving you that shoe and ankle coverage. Okay guys, from here we got that 42 tooth chainring. I love the narrow wide setup they've got, and then the 10 speed cassette, 11 to 36. I'm gonna shift through, and we are gonna ride in the highest level of assist, just so you can get that audio feedback on like how quickly it starts and stops and just the sound profile. So here we go. Nice. So we got up to, it's looking like 36 kilometers per hour there. So I was outpacing the motor, not having any problem. We're on a slight decline here, and it's just smooth, quiet concrete. Shifting through the gears worked just fine, and then the brakes were excellent. And there was a little bit of dive when I started braking, just because the weight shifts forward. So it's nice to have those bigger rotors, quad piston calipers. Well guys, it's been a fun adventure today, making some friends and just checking out these bikes. It's nice to see sort of like last generation, new generation, and you get the comparison between the bikes. To me, you know, OHM having been around for so many years and that attention to detail and quality, it is a bike that you pay more for. But what do you guys have? 2-year comprehensive, 5 years on the frame?
Yeah, 2 years on the components and 5 years on the frame.
And you've got a showroom up in like North Vancouver. People can come in, right?
Yeah, we're in North Vancouver. We're located near the Auto Mall in North Van.
Thanks for meeting me. I was excited to go on a trail that had a little bit of everything here, and I feel like the bike did a great job. There is the different steps, whether you're just at the Quest 2, the sport model with the boost hub spacing, the bigger tires and stuff, or you go up to like the electronic shifting with the Pro. For the full written review on this, I'll have everything back at ElectricBikeReview.com. We spent some time together and just studying the bike like always. There's a great comparison tool so you could see the old version of the bike versus the new one, maybe some other comparable ones. And there's a forum so you can chime in with your favorite RackTime accessories or whatever. I love you guys. Ride safe out there, have fun, and we'll see you next time.